Hello, scholars. Mr. Long signing on. Today, I want to go over the final project for United States government and politics and hopefully give you guys a good framework to start working on your final project from. We want to go over some of the expectations, the standards, and the objectives. And I'm going to give you guys some tips on how best to complete this task. Our objective for the final project is to research a topic relevant to modern government and politics and communicate in writing your stance on the given topic supported by research facts and statistics. There are three main steps to this project. 1, choose a prompt. 2, complete the outline handout. And step 3 is to actually write the paper and submit it to me before the deadline. Step 1, choose a prompt. If you go into Canvas, there is a module called Final Project. If you open that up, everything that you need should be here. Most of the stuff that you need is in the document labeled Instructions, Rubrics, and Prompts that I circled on the screen here for you. In the instructions, there are a number of prompts that I wrote for you guys. And if you just want to go with something that I gave you, by all means, work with what you got. If there is a topic not covered by the prompts that you would prefer to write about or you're more curious about, shoot me the prompt in an email. And if I approve it, you're good to go to work with that one. But it has to be approved in writing via email before you actually move on to step 2. My email is included here for those of you that don't have their syllabus readily available. klong@rappahannockschools.us. So you can email me your prompts if you want to use a student-created prompt. And again, once it's approved, move on to step 2. Step 2 is the outline handout. This is found in the final project module in Canvas. There are 2 documents relevant to the outline handout. One is the outline handout document itself. This is just a blank template for you to work from. And the second one is a sample that I made just to help illustrate what kind of information you should have on your handout and the way you should be phrasing some of the snippets in the handout. And I'll show you what I'm talking about coming up next. The outline handout is due Tuesday, May 18th. So please have that into me ahead of time in order to receive credit. And if you do a draft of your outline handout and you're not 100% positive that you're going to get a 10, if you submit it to me before the deadline and ask me to review it, I will give you feedback, and then you can take that feedback to get a higher score when you submit your final outline handout. So on the left over here with the 1, that is the blank handout that you'll see whenever you open the document in Canvas. And then over 2, this is the sample that I provided. Now, the sample I provided is with a prompt that's not available to you. I tried just to pick a more basic prompt just to help illustrate some of the steps you're going to go through. So the prompt we went through for the sample: which branch of the national government is the most important and why? So that's what we're looking at, right? So we're going to underline some of our key bits. Which branch of the national government is the most important and why? Now, at this point, you may have a hypothesis, and let's say you want to, after your preliminary research and after taking this class, you remember, I think the legislative branch is really important. I want to focus my research on that one and help explain why the legislative branch is the most important. So your claim after your preliminary research or just thinking back to the class is that the legislative branch is the most important branch of the national government. Cool. So that's what you're going with. From there, you need to come up with support A, B, and C that all tie back to your claim of the legislative branch. So that goes over there, B goes over there, and C all ties back to the legislative branch of the national government. So if we're looking at support A, and this is after you do a whole bunch of research and outlining or whatever, that's whenever you transition to the handout. So the legislative branch is the most important branch of the national government because, so here I have a complete sentence, because it is the most thought out branch listed in the US Constitution. So let's say we had some sources that talked about how much time the founding fathers put into the legislative branch versus the others. So evidence 1, it's the first article. When the founding fathers wrote the Constitution, it's straight up step 1. They didn't even look at the presidency or the judicial branch. They first need to address Congress. Evidence 2, you can look at how much longer. And if you flip through the Constitution, you can kind of see how much longer Article 1 is compared to the others. And so there was a nice website from NARA, the National Archives and Research Administration. Dang it, I'm blanking on what NARA is right now. I'm a failure. I'm hacking a fraud as a historian. Oh no. So, but anyways, the Center for Legislative Archives counted out how many words are in the first article of the U.S. Constitution and compared it to the rest. So if you count up all the words, which you don't have to do this because there's people that are smarter than you and I that do this, and or at least have more time to count words in the Constitution. They say that there are, let's see if I can do it. Yeah, 2,268 words, which is 52% of the entire document. So if you're just looking at the Constitution itself, over half the words of the document are all dedicated to Article 1. And so part of you fueling your claim that it's the most well thought out is that it's over half the document, not including like the preamble and Article 2 and Article 3, like all that stuff. Article 1 above everything else is the most important because of how much time went into it. And then for a third piece of evidence, if you wanted to talk about it, or like for the example here, I referenced that the legislative branch was the only branch present in the Articles of Confederation, which ultimately failed. But it goes on to show that the legislative branch is so important that even with the very, very, very first draft of having a United States government, the legislative branch in Congress was the one thing that they tried. And then they realized it failed, and that's when they added in the executive and the judicial branch, but the legislative branch was alone with the Articles of Confederation. So that should be the bulk of that paragraph, right? So we have the support, like the overall theme for that paragraph, 3 pieces of evidence. You add in a couple sentences to help expand on some of those ideas. So maybe for another sentence, you can talk in evidence 2 about how what percent are dedicated to the other articles. So how many are for Article 2? How many for Article 3? And you can use that to compare how much more important the legislative branch may be versus the other branches. And I'm not going to go through all for the other B and C support, because you guys can flip through that with a sample on your own. But ultimately, as long as all of your evidence, so evidence 1, 2, and 3, they all tie back to the support A, which in turn ties back to your claim, you're on the right track. And if you get stuck, I'm here for you. Shoot me an email or come see me in my class, and we'll get you guys squared away. But hopefully by completing this blank handout, which you see on the left, it should help you organize your thought so that whenever you go to write your position paper, you're pretty much just transferring sentences from your handout to the paper, and that should make your life a whole lot easier when you get to that point. Thesis statement. So let's talk about thesis statement. This is going to be a part of the paper. Mr. Long loves symptom thesis statement. So I believe that's the next slide. Beautiful. So thesis statement wise, way down here, love me a good thesis statement. Delicious. Now, this is something that you guys would hopefully have learned over the 5 years you've been here at Rappahannock County High School, but it always helps to have a refresher. So with a thesis statement, you want to have your claim, support A, support B, support C, all in a single sentence, which really lays out not just what you're arguing or how you're arguing it, but also the order in which you're going to argue. So support A, B, and C, that should be the order that you write about in your paper. So for the thesis statement here, the one I provided, and you can kind of be a little artsy with how you structure your thesis statement, but I'm pretty basic, man. Like I like to keep it simple. So to keep it simple, I'm gonna start off with my claim, looking down here at the bottom. The legislative branch is the most important branch of the national government. Again, I'm trying to incorporate the question in as best I can, and I also have my claim up here. Oh, sorry. And I also have my claim up here at the top to help me out. So the legislative branch is the most important branch of the national government because it is the most thought out branch listed in the U.S. Constitution. So there's A. It is the most powerful branch of government, which if you look up here, I talk about how it's the most powerful branch. And then it best reflects the population of the United States compared to the presidency and the Supreme Court. If I could write a C, that'd be really cool, which is over here. Best reflects the population of the United States. So there are all 4 components that I need in one sentence. It's a long sentence, but it's effectively, it's a summary. If I ask you to summarize your entire research paper or position paper in one sentence, your go-to answer should be your thesis statement. Everything should be there, and then I can ask follow-up questions about, well, why do you think this, or how do you know that? And that's where the evidence comes in. So for the thesis statement, we have our claim, we have our support A, we have our support B, we have our support C. It's all in one sentence. And the order that I lay out, A, B, and C, is going to match the order of my research paper. So your first paragraph, if I'm doing a 5-paragraph research paper, your first paragraph is going to be your introduction that includes your thesis statement in the introduction. Your second paragraph is going to talk all about A. Your third paragraph is going to talk about B. Your fourth paragraph is going to talk all about C. And then your conclusion is going to wrap everything up, and you're going to restate and rephrase some parts of your argument to remind the reader what you're talking about. And in your conclusion, you should have a version of your thesis statement. And it really shouldn't be copy and pasted. You can kind of tweak the wording a little bit. An easy way to do that, for those of you that want a little trick or a tip, is to kind of switch the way you structure your thesis statement and put your claim at the end. So you could say something to the effect of, because the legislative branch is the most thought out branch listed in the US Constitution, it is the most powerful branch of the government, and it best reflects the population of the United States compared to the President of the Supreme Court. The legislative branch is the most important branch of the national government. So you just kind of move it at the end. You play with it to make sure the sentence flows as a coherent sentence, and then boom, you restate your thesis at the end, and Mr. Long is happy. So that's the outline handout. If you guys have any specific questions on that, you can schedule a Zoom meeting with me, or shoot me an email, or just come nag me in class, and we'll get you guys squared away. So step 2, or sorry, I think it's step 3. Yep, step 3. Sorry, my little face was in the way. So step 3 is the position paper itself. Once the outline is done, you should kick that over to me so I can review it before you start working on your paper. And again, that's due Tuesday the 18th. So the position paper itself shouldn't be that much harder than the outline. Once the outline is done, you're pretty much just transferring ideas over, adding more sentences, working on your transitions, and making sure that it makes sense. The research paper itself needs to be 3 pages in length. And when I say 3 pages, what I mean are 2 full pages. So it's double space. So it's effectively 1 page single space. So I'm not asking you to, give me your firstborn child. And then at least 1 line on the 3rd page to make it at least 3 pages. That's how I'm looking at that. There you go. The standard has been clarified. From there, you need to make sure that you're using size 12 Times New Roman font. So nothing crazy about that. Make sure it's double spaced. That'll make your life a little bit easier, and it gives me room to scribble all over it and make comments, because I like me some comments. And the final product is due Friday, the 21st of May at by no later than midnight, so I can grade it over the weekend and have your grades turned in to the front office on Monday to get you guys ready to graduate. Yeah, we're almost there. You can email me your position paper at klong@rappahannockschools.us, or you can share it with me. You can share it with me as a Google Doc. Now, both those are totally fine. What I recommend, so that you guys can make sure that nothing gets weird when you email it, save your document, save your Word doc as a PDF. So it's an image. Email me the PDF. And that way, nothing weird gets changed or deleted or reformatted when you email it to me. Sometimes with Word docs, stuff gets kind of moved around depending on how your computer is set up versus how my computer is set up. So if you save it as a PDF, it's an image and it can't be adjusted, and nothing goes wrong on your side. So always try to send stuff as PDFs when you can. That'll make your life a little bit easier. The final product must include a works cited page, which I'll get into next. And again, you can, just like the outline, if you get a draft of your final paper done before Friday, you can email it to me and ask me to review it, and I will gladly look it over and give you feedback so that you can get a higher score than you would otherwise. So feel free to take advantage of that opportunity. You also have classmates that are pretty smart. so you can lean on them a little bit to check over your work. In general, it's always a good idea to have someone peer review. I know this happens to me personally. Like when I was making the instructions for this assignment, I share it with some of the other teachers because I know what I'm trying to say. So my brain does the little autocorrect thing on its own, and it helps to have another set of eyes that didn't write it because they notice things that you wouldn't because you're the author. So make sure you try to budget some time to have someone else give it a look over. Whether it's a sibling, a classmate, a parent, whatever it may be, doesn't hurt to have extra eyes. So the works cited page, the criteria for this is set up in the instructions, rubrics, and prompts document on Canvas, so you can go there for more information. If you run into any issues with your works cited, we're basing this off of the MLA format, which can be found on the online writing laboratory for Purdue University. So that's the OWL, Online Writing Laboratory. And if you get stuck, you can just email me and I'll point you in the right direction, or come find me, and I'd always rather show you in person anyways if that's possible. A couple of things you need to include. You need to have your works cited page titled. It needs to be on a separate page at the very end. And at the top center needs to be works cited. The whole document is going to be double-spaced. We're just going to make this simple. I'm not going to do too much formatting specifics, but I do want it double-spaced. And I do want all citations to be listed alphabetically by the first letter on your citation. And again, there's examples of how to cite it in the instructions page. And if you're in person, I'll show you a couple tips and tricks for that. And if you guys get stuck, just be sure to let me know. The rubric itself, it's a pretty basic rubric. I just want to give you guys some nudges in the right direction and help you guys get your points. And this is the way I'm going to be grading it for everybody. The points available are all based off of a 10-point scale. If I can find nothing wrong with it, you'll get a 10 out of 10. If there's a few negligible errors, depending on how many negligible errors or how obvious those errors are, you could get a 7 to 9 points, 5 to 6 if there's some, and 1 to 4 if it's a whole lot. And then if you just blatantly made no effort to meet the standard, I'm not going to give you any points. So again, this is based off of how many errors I catch. You want to be as perfect as possible. And again, if you want me to look it over ahead of time and I'll give you feedback, that's a pretty good way to make sure that you're getting as close to a 10 as possible. So the way the rubric is broken down, it's out of 50 points, 5 categories of 10 points each. The first one is the outline handout. All the portions need to be correctly completed. And you can submit to me. I say on here up to 3 times. By the 4th time, you should know what you need to do. So I don't expect you guys to need 4 tries. And whatever the highest grade I give you will be the one used. Final submission claim. This is the thesis chunk. You need to have a single sentence thesis statement that clearly establishes the claim, incorporates the 3 topics of support, and outlines the order of the paper, which I talked about all under that portion of this instructional video. The final submission content, you need to have at least 3 pieces of evidence, the 3 pieces of evidence for each of the 3 supporting topics, for a total of 9 pieces of evidence or facts. And that's the outline, right? So under support A, you have evidence 1, evidence 2, evidence 3. Under support B, 1, 2, 3, C, 1, 2, 3. If you incorporate all 9 of those, and if they're actually evidence and not just, your opinion, then you're good. You got your 10 points. Research, you do need to get full credit. You need to include 9 different sources into the paper. And there's a lot of things. This is politics and government. So you can look at different newspaper articles. You can use the textbook if you want to cite that. You can use any of my videos. Just make sure you work with me on how to cite it, because it's going to be a little different than the stuff I gave you in Canvas. Pew Research is great for just finding general polling statistics, different newspapers you can pull different facts from. Just be careful. By this point, as seniors, you should have a better idea of what's reliable and what's not. Do not use Wikipedia. If you want to use something from Wikipedia, get with me. I'm going to show you how to track down what sources the Wikipedia author used, because if you just go to the source they used, that you can use that source. Just don't cite Wikipedia. It looks sloppy and terrible, and I will judge you for it. So 9 different sources into their paper. and they need to be cited correctly on the works cited page. And again, if you want to show me that before the deadline, I'd be happy to give you feedback. I do want you guys to score as highly as possible, and I am available to help you do so. Hopefully no tricks and surprises from my end. The final category are mechanics. If you demonstrate a strong comprehension of the English language with no errors in punctuation, spelling, grammar, or word choice, you get full credit. So if you're bad with commas, find someone that's good with commas to help you out. If you can't spell to save your life, buy a dictionary or use spell check. There are ways to do well in regards to communicating and writing. And if you ever have doubts, reach out to a classmate, reach out to a teacher. I'd be happy to look it over, but we also have some wonderful English teachers here at the high school that would be, again, happy to help you do well on this project. And if they say, no, I'm not going to help you, you come let me know and I'll give them a stern talking to so that we can get you guys walking on graduation. So that's the rubric. Last thing, the total is 50 points, which is just the sum of all the categories. So when I get your scores, I'm going to add them all up, and hopefully we see a big old 5-0 in that category, and you'll get that score for the final project. That is the final project in a gist. We got some deadlines. Make sure you made notes of those expectations. The rubric's available. It's a pretty basic rubric, and I like to keep it a little simple just so you guys have a basic guideline and you're not being super nitpicky about word count or something different. I want to keep it a little loosey-goosey because that gives us some flexibility in regards to how we want to write our paper. I think that's all I have. You guys have my email. It was mentioned in the video itself. You guys have me in class. I'm here for you if you guys have any questions. I don't think there's anything else. I mean, it's a pretty basic research paper. You have probably done something similar to this before, so nothing should be terribly new. And if something is new and confusing, you got to let me know because I can't address a problem unless I know it's there. So that's all I have for you guys. Good luck. We're almost done with the semester. And before you know it, you guys will be walking at graduation. That's all I got. Mr. Long.